Please remember to mute your microphones. Joe P., could you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. We'll wait a couple of more minutes just to see if anybody, just for people to Okay. Beatrice, will you keep track of people in the waiting room? Okay, we'll go ahead and start. I want a good afternoon and welcome to everyone who's tuned in. We are recording this event. If anybody objects to that, please let us know now. We've put some useful URLs in the chat to link you to the Sustainable Systems Research Foundation and our presenters today. And finally, can I ask everyone to put your names and emails in the chat box so that we can be sure you're on our ADU contact list? Okay, so good afternoon again. My name is Ronnie Lipschitz. I'm the co-director of the Sustainable Systems Research Foundation, a nonprofit green think tank and project incubator in Santa Cruz. We have an interest in increasing the supply of affordable rental housing in the Monterey Bay region, as I'm sure most of you do. So we've organized this event. The purpose is not to provide a guide to ADU regulations, design, permitting, financing, and construction, since there are many resources available online about these topics, some of which are listed on our ADU resources page. And I'm imagining many of you have watched numerous webinars and read numerous articles about ADUs. So I'm assuming everybody more or less knows what these are. So the purpose of the event is to take the first steps to create a non-governmental organization for the Monterey Bay region that can assist and facilitate homeowners in building accessory dwelling units on their property. And that can be standalone units or junior ADUs or garage conversions. So this is not just about backyard buildings. Well, the model that we're following for such an organization are Napa Sonoma ADU and Hello Bright, an affiliate of Mid-Penn Housing. We're going to have short presentations on both of those organizations in a few minutes. And again, I have posted links to them in the chat box. These organizations try to help interested homeowners through the treacherous shoals of installing an ADU without spending a fortune and several years doing it. And we think we need something similar in the Monterey Bay region. So that's by way of introduction. And here's the agenda for today's gathering. First, the two short presentations about Napa Sonoma and Hello Bright. We'll then devote about 15 to 20 minutes to question and answers. Other things, open discussion, comments and ideas, and the questions that we think need to be addressed in starting this regional nonprofit. We're then going to ask for volunteers to join a working group to develop a proposal and organizational design. And then we'll invite final questions, and we want to release you around 2 p.m. to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. So again, before I introduce the first of our speakers, could I ask that you put your names and emails in the chat box so that we can add you to our contact list. Our first speaker today is Ms. Julia De Natal, who is Vice President of Community Impact at the Napa Valley Community Foundation, which played a major role in creating Napa Sonoma ADU, and which is fiscal sponsor for that organization. Among her many responsibilities at the Community Foundation, her many responsibilities are grant making, including donor recommended, discretionary, designated, endowed, and scholarship portfolios, and community impact grant making, and she leads the foundation's community initiatives, which currently include housing and Napa Sonoma ADU. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Julia.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Nice to spend some time with you. I'm going to give you a really brief overview of Napa Valley Community Foundation's motivation behind developing this project. And then you'll have some time for questions, as Ronnie said, because I'd like the information I provide to be as useful as possible to you. And I'm sure that you're all here because you probably have your own great insights into the benefits of ADUs. So taking you back to 2017, early that year, our board started talking about how Napa Valley Community Foundation might get into the affordable housing space. The largest funder in Napa County, Napa Valley Vintners and Auction Napa Valley, had moved away from affordable housing, and we felt that it was time for Napa Valley Community Foundation to move in. Around the same time, some of our key jurisdictional partners, the city and the county, with whom we had worked closely on other projects, came to us with an idea that had come to them around what can we do to bend the adoption curve on accessory dwelling units in Napa County. And we loved the idea of using philanthropic capital to help private citizens become part of the solution to a public housing crisis. And as all of you probably did, we saw the writing on the wall at that time that California was heading to a place where the legislative climate was going to be very amenable to ADU development. So, and thus began some early research, wherein we learned things like ADUs are naturally occurring affordable housing because in places like Portland, where they had really taken off already, they tended to rent for about 80% of what a comparable non-ADU would rent for. Unfortunately, we had to pause this research for a while because we had some major wildfires in 2017, and Napa Valley Community Foundation and all of our partners turned towards fire relief. And so we did not pick this project back up until the summer of 2019. Next slide, please. At that time, we raised and dedicated some funds to conduct the research and development phase, and we hired Baird and Driscoll Community Planning to conduct some research and try to help us size the local market and inform whatever we were thinking at that point we might put together that would help increase the supply of affordable housing through the promotion of ADUs. We learned, among other things, that ADU production locally in Napa and Sonoma had already increased. We learned that many parcels were eligible for ADUs, and coming down the pike, many more would soon become eligible. We learned that many homeowners had significant equity. Many seniors live in Napa and Sonoma counties and were overhoused. And we learned, importantly, that income and financial security was the top reason for people who were considering building an ADU. And the second reason following that was housing for family members. We also learned that the greatest barriers were that people feared the permitting process and that financing the ADUs was, of course, another top issue. So this research led us to developing our approach, which was that we wanted to take a comprehensive and data-informed approach. We wanted to sequence activities of the Napa Sonoma ADU Center to build market appetite and decrease risk. We wanted to work across sectors. This one was really important. We wanted public, private, and nonprofit players in the mix, and we really wanted to build upon existing relationships that we, the foundation, had. We wanted to partner regionally with Sonoma County for greater impact and leverage. And we wanted to test products and methods with a clear pathway to scale, because we had learned that there were a lot of incredible efforts out there, and really the roadblocks were where we're hitting when it was time to scale. And we wanted to learn from other pilots and capture and share our own learnings. Next slide, please. From day one of launching Napa Sonoma ADU Center, our goal was to test the levels of intervention that would address these barriers. So the barriers I talked about on the previous slide, we wanted to see what a reasonable infusion of philanthropic dollars would do to pull on these various levers and discover really what was the maximum or minimum amount needed to move people from the thought to the deed in terms of building. Next slide, please. We were also really interested in testing amongst two camps. What could we do with homeowners who could afford to build, but we wanted them to rent to low income tenants? And what could we do to help lower income homeowners build ADUs that could provide financial stability or housing for family members? Next slide, please. And thus the birth of Napa Sonoma ADU Center, where we believe in a future that everyone who works in Napa and Sonoma can afford to live here, and that ADUs offer flexibility, family, and financial security. So here are the 6 key components of Napa Sonoma ADU Center as it stands today. Making government policies and permitting processes for ADUs as streamlined, simple, and affordable as possible. Homeowner education and outreach. Providing feasibility assessments to help homeowners understand opportunities and costs for developing on their specific parcel, helping homeowners navigate the design and building process, including modular, panelized, or on-site construction, helping homeowners lease and manage units, including development of partnerships with nonprofit and government for more affordable rentals, and creating new financial incentives and products to help low-income homeowners build ADUs and or to encourage leasing of ADUs to lower-income households. Next slide, please. So Napa Sonoma ADU Center was officially launched in April 2020. It was a tough time to launch something, but we did, and has officially turned one. So to dig a little more deeply into the specific work with jurisdictions that has been happening since actually before the launch, probably about a year before the launch, here are where we've been focusing our time with the 16 jurisdictions between Sonoma and Napa counties. Supporting and monitoring implementation of state policy changes, developing together with the jurisdictions, process best practice recommendations, piloting recommendations in 5 of the jurisdictions where collectively we felt that we had more bandwidth to do so. Designation of an ADU lead in each jurisdiction. Some of them already had one, most did not. Joint problem solving and pre-approved plans, which are still in the works, but soon to be launched. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to walk you through all of the specifics on the tools that we offer at Napa Sonoma ADU Center, but you have the link, and if you don't, I can drop it into the chat. But the last thing that I will say before I hand it over is that we envision this to be a 2 to 3 year initiative, at least under Napa Valley Community Foundation. Alongside the Napa Sonoma ADU Center, we're also dedicating some resources to try to pilot an ADU specific loan product with a local bank. So we have fundraised and we continue to fundraise enough funding to cover 2 to 3 years of operations, by which time it is our hope that either the market has developed to such a place that ADUs are like solar and are accessible to a much broader audience because the costs have gone down and financing has taken off, or at which time Napa Sonoma ADU Center sticks around, but perhaps moves in with another direct service nonprofit that is focused on housing. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Julia. Our second speaker is Rachel Guinness, Senior Construction Project Manager for Hello Housing, to talk about Hello Housing's ADU program. Rachel is a LEED accredited residential designer and licensed general contractor. So Rachel, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. I just want to say it's just a delight to be here. And I actually am a Sonoma resident, and really I find the work that the Sonoma Napa Center has done just, fantastic. So housing and energy efficiency and sustainability are completely intertwined. It is how we're going to create ADUs are how we're going to help to create healthy and resilient communities, prepared for the challenges of the 21st century. Our work on ADUs development began in San Mateo County, which was an early adopter in the movement. In 2017, when the new laws came out, they recognized the importance ADUs had to given the struggles of limited land, a job and housing imbalance, which was creating high housing costs and considerable traffic congestion. So they were the first to congregate jurisdictions and launch an interactive website and resource center specifically for ADUs to encourage and support property owners to develop this housing. Next slide, please. This website offers interactive videos of families that have built ADUs, idea work and guidebooks to help homeowners through the process, as well as floor plans and budgets, a consumer-friendly calculator, and links to permitting code by jurisdiction. Together with new ADU laws, this has created a considerable boom in ADU construction. Next slide, please. But even with these amazing tools in place, it is only the most intrepid homeowners with access to investment capital who are the early adopters with enough time, resources, and experience to take on such a complex project in a volatile and dynamic market. So it is telling that San Mateo was the first to offer homeowners project management services to guide them through the feasibility, financing, design, permitting, construction, and leasing through the Brighten Your Own Backyard program. Next slide, please. If we are going to fully unleash this opportunity and bring low to moderate homeowners to the table, incentives, creative financing instruments, and technical support are needed. Many homeowners do not have access to financing. They are working with thin margins and lack the experience needed to manage such an overwhelming project. The work that we are doing at Hello Housing offers homeowners a trusted advisor on projects that require a customized approach. We wish to replicate and scale this model throughout California as we have seen the difference it makes. And we are willing to work with jurisdictions wherever they are in the process. Nonprofits are uniquely positioned to facilitate communication between private interests, government entities, and the public. Contrary to other third-party professionals, we act as a neutral, unbiased consultant, offering a wider lens, oversight on design and construction, while also facilitating greater communication between parties. We help homeowners understand all of their options from inspiration to occupancy so that they can capture the greatest value, flexibility, and livability in this considerable investment. This professional guidance, combined with access to new, more inclusive financing options, gives homeowners the opportunity and confidence they need to embark on a project of this magnitude. And there is a range of new loan products coming to the market that are rethinking the loan to value ratio, because financing institutions like the San Mateo Credit Union, also an early adopter in the movement, are allowing future value and income to be used to qualify for not only housing, but also energy efficiency upgrades. This has the potential to create a new powerful financing tool for sustainable development. Public funds can be utilized in return for a specific public benefit, lower rents, to support private investment in ADUs so that homeowners can take advantage of this considerable opportunity. The same investment used to create one multifamily affordable unit could create 30 ADUs with no additional subsidy needed to maintain them. Next slide, please.
Did we lose
Stages
you,
of life.
Rachel? Oh,
Yeah.
we lost you there for a minute, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear me ask for the last slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. If we are going to expand this movement in a way that includes a diversity of people, including minorities and women at all income levels and stages of life, we need to incentivize development, offer creative financing tools, and provide homeowners the technical assistance they need to lend their time, land, resources to creating our most affordable housing. That's what I have for you.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel.
Yes.
We have a
Right.
little bit of time for Q&A if people want to ask Rachel or Julia questions. Are there questions? I think I'm not quite sure how to do this. I guess you could raise your hand or something. But if you have a question, then just unmute. I think you can do that and ask it, and we'll try and keep some order.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we are here in Santa Cruz County, and I know we're part of the Coastal Commission. So that's something I'm definitely thinking about a lot. Like, how were you able to overcome or work with, if you have like a Coastal Commission or different EPA, different entities like that?
I can speak to that a little bit. The Coastal Commission definitely adds another layer of complexity. Again, I mean, as if the development isn't complex enough, that adds, an additional piece. So the Coastal Commission had put out a memo that allows certain ADUs, like junior ADUs, to be exempt. And they're trying to figure out how to navigate ADUs that have very little impact on the environment, but it still is a work in progress. So it's a very good question. And all I can say is all parties are really working on how to navigate that space.
Robin, do you live within the Coastal Commission's jurisdiction?
Yes,
And that extends how far inland?
I don't actually know how far inland, but I know having worked in Watsonville right now and having worked in Watsonville, a number of the properties that we were on, they were all part of the Coastal Commission.
Really? Oh, okay.
Things like we needed to put in like drop a well or do different things like that. And yeah, the Coastal Commission always came up as, well, you got to talk to the Coastal Commission before you do that, or you've got to do an EPA check on that. And I think for the Monterey Bay area also, water usage. The water usage is going to be an issue.
Yeah, you know, I think the Harkin Slough may be one of the, you know, the sloughs extend that particular jurisdiction. Martinelli just said 5 miles. I think it's actually less, but okay, it's a good thing to keep in mind.
You can go to the Coastal Commission website and they provide maps that show where the coastal borders are, but you can also check in with your permitting department to see if you're in the coastal zone.
Okay, Sarah?
Hi, yeah. My name's Sarah Noisy. I work for the city of Santa Cruz. I was interested in the comment you made about the cost of these units. And I was just wondering if you could expand on that, because that is definitely around here one of the biggest constraints that we're encountering with applicants is that the units are just very expensive to build. So any information you have on, you know, ways that that construction cost has been reduced, I'm really interested in hearing that.
I can start and say, we have not been able to reduce the cost of construction. It is going up and will continue to do so, especially if we have another fire. And so I think the comment I made was, to be honest, so the people we've helped in this first year are people who can afford to build. And even some of them, as we follow them, are going to drop out of their journey because they can't. And so the approach we're trying to take on the other side is to
go everything, you know, they go everywhere from a junior unit, right, which is created within existing space, to a freestanding ADU up to 1,200 square feet on your property. And so, you know, it's a very wide range. So tailoring the kind of ADU you make with the financing that you have available is obviously, you know, part of the equation and what needs to be figured out. Because of the new laws, they've tried to reduce costs a bit by taking away impact fees when you make ADUs below 750 square feet. But there still is, you know, quite a bit of hurdles with costs, which is why creating these creative financing instruments are so important to the movement.
This is Jennifer Duffy with Hello Housing. And just to add to some of the comments around the cost, you know, I think we're all in a climate where construction costs are going up. Supply lines have definitely been impacted as it relates to construction materials and whatnot. But I think another real piece that is really important with homeowners is moving upstream to help ground them in what the potential costs might be before they start spending their first dollar. You know, I think it's a really important piece that I think comes through in the form of education, and as well as knowledge about how different building strategies and design strategies can come into play to reduce some of those costs. So for example, we're all looking at pre-approved plans as one way to kind of streamline some of those costs. But there are also some incredible architectural firms that are looking at preset designs that they have done multiple times in very similar geographies, where the cost for that design can be really reduced because it's not needing to be so customized. So I think as a collective group, we're all looking at different ways where we can build efficiency and different ways where we can provide clear education and transparency as it relates to the cost of construction.
Katie?
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Katie Castagna with United Way, Monterey County. And for a couple of years, we have had an ADU initiative as part of our or we've spearheaded an initiative as part of our affordable housing work. And we've laid some groundwork and I think accomplished or set an infrastructure forward for some of the things that you demonstrated. And I'd be interested in a conversation about really, I guess, assessing where the resources are as far as education and information and some of these things, and then where we're falling short, because I know that there's a lot of what I think of the hand holding or case management and the more technical expertise that clearly isn't within the United Way wheelhouse. But I know that's one of the things that I see is happening in other communities that might be helpful here. So I would just be really interested in making sure we're mapping out our current resources and appetite. And we have had committees and have worked very closely with the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership and many of you on the call, really. So I think there's an appetite and an established interest, but really to understand where we need more capacity to move some of these ideas forward would be of great interest. Thanks.
Okay. Satish?
Hi, everyone. Satish from Habitat for Humanity, Monterey Bay. In terms of financing, we do have a grant from Cal Home to build up to 10 ADUs in Santa Cruz and Monterey County. So we do have some funding available, but one of our requirements is that the homeowner has to be a low-income homeowner, and the other requirement is that we want the ADU also to be rented out to a low-income homeowner. So we can provide financing for up to $100,000 to build an ADU. And, we have one candidate that we're currently working with in Marina. And, we're in the process of promoting this resource that we have. And, this is a good place for it. You can go to a website, and we are trying to add more information on our website. So please go to our website, look at the information you have. And, we have an application form on our website for people who want to get ADUs built. We also have a My House, My Home program, which we put in place in 2017 timeframe, along with support from the city of Santa Cruz and the county of Santa Cruz, where it's targeted to aging in place. So in that case, the twist is that the homeowner has to be a senior, 62 or older and low income, and then they have to rent the ADU to a low income, and that unit is deed restricted. So we have a couple of different programs where we can get some funding. At the same time, we would help in doing the design, using volunteers to build the home. So we are looking for more incoming applications. So we're just in the process of advertising our program.
Thank you. I think we sort of segued into the discussion part. I wanted to comment a bit on something that Satish just said, which is my sort of sense is that people who are well off and can afford to spend $300,000 on an ADU are probably in a position to handle a lot of the difficulties. But there are, as Satish pointed out, growing numbers of people who are sort of stuck in their homes because they're house rich, cash poor, can't afford to move, and may want to bring family members or others to live with them. And one of the things that we're going to try to do this summer is to identify those households in Santa Cruz County. We've purchased tax and parcel data from the county, and our hypothesis is that anyone who has a tax assessment of $5,000 or less has probably been in their house quite a long time, because that would have been $250,000 in 1990, and is probably not in a position, well, no one in Santa Cruz is in a position to move anywhere. And I think that's true for much of the county. So, that sort of addresses some of the aging in place issues that you raised, Satish. Of course, there may be people who have much higher tax assessments, much more, and they paid much more for their houses, and may not also be able to afford to do something like this. So that's another market. But the strategies for approaching different segments, I think, may differ to some degree. Are there other questions or comments that people want to make? Anne, I see your hand waving. Unmute yourself, Anne. Here, I think I can do it. Oops. Yeah, okay, there you go.
I don't see anybody, but if everyone hears me, I guess that's the most important thing. So I'm Ann Lopez from Center for Farm Worker Families. I'm just wondering if there's a possibility of constructing modular ADUs. So they're to reduce construction costs, number one. And then as I listen to the discussion and reflect on my experience in Watsonville with farm workers and the way they're living, I'm just wondering if there's activities or anything that can recognize the urgency of the need for decent, affordable housing for these lowest income people, so they don't have to live in the horrendous conditions that I've witnessed. So those are my two questions.
Is there anyone who can address those? I suspect, Anne, those are questions that need to be addressed. Yeah, Rachel.
My internet cut out for a second. So
oh, okay.
One part of the question I got was the part about
Well, I can repeat it. There's basically just two parts briefly.
Universal.
One is, and we do modular units to reduce costs. And number two, is there any movement to reduce the barriers enough to start building these things so so people living in the horrendous conditions that I've witnessed in Watsonville among farm workers can begin to think about the fact that they may be able to have decent, affordable housing at some point.
Thank you. Yeah, so they're talking about scaling this product, which can be both built like as a prefab, as a panelized unit, and as a stick-built unit. And
Great.
So, so people are looking at these, and also the loans that we're talking about that allow people to qualify based on future value and future income are the loans that we need to get the people who are, they don't have incomes anymore. They are retired. They couldn't qualify for traditional financing. So these issues are being addressed right now. So it's a very exciting time to open the very doors you're talking about.
Great, thank you.
I know that's not Ben West up there, but go ahead. You're muted. Yeah.
Hey guys, so I can help just a little bit. So I work with Joyline Homes. So Ben West, I myself, Daniette West, own it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is find pre-manufactured units. We try to get the same insignias that you can as you would build like a manufactured home, but build them to a much higher standard. A modular unit, just so everybody knows kind of the terms that we use in the manufactured housing industry, modular typically means you're ordering a kit and you're assembling a kit in place. To do that is actually much more difficult with the county because you're asking for a lot more inspections and a lot more permits when you're assembling those units. If you do a manufactured home, which is a better prefab, Joyline Homes, that's what we build. There's quite a few other companies that do them in the area. That's what streamlines the build process. Clara County has just done some really big initiatives for the agriculture workers to be able to do something, a little bit more allowance for that, reduce permitting costs. And I think we'll start to see things like that. We're really recognizing the demand. The big thing that I'm coming up against, though, is I have a lot of lower income, but they don't quite qualify for some of the programs that are out in Salinas and Prunedale and Corralitos. Those areas don't typically allow ADUs if you are less than 2 acres of land. So these people are, 5 minutes from 101 and they're driving all the way to Watsonville or maybe to Hollister to go to work, but they still need 2 full acres of land. So some of it I think will be addressed by zoning, but I really think prefab units are the way to go. Those right now we can do them for about $120 a square foot. To do a modular build or build in place, you're $300 to $450 a square foot.
I do have a question about that, and that is, have you had trouble putting manufactured units in backyards that are not, outside of mobile home parks? That's what.
Yes. No, that's a great question to ask. So federal government has made a requirement that anywhere you're allowed to have housing, you're allowed to have a prefab or a manufactured home. It is actually exactly the same build techniques that you would do with a site built. Mm-hmm. You put it on a permanent foundation. Any home that you buy prefab that has a HUD insignia has been inspected by the federal government and can go into any county in the United States. Mm-hmm. They cannot discourage against them. If there's an HOA that has certain architectural details that they need, they can require those, but you can easily, make a customization of a siding or making a roof line look like it's that part's easy.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions or comments?
I also am, I'm mainly a licensed mortgage broker, but I am also a builder as well. And I represent a number of different panelized systems. One of them being SIPs, which may or may not be affordable for some, but honestly, there's a cold molded steel product that it's the same company that built the hospital in Wuhan, China in 10 days. They offer both a tilt up, so like a kit home that can be tilted up, and then also the modular units as well. And I can't really speak to the pricing because it will depend on the project, but it's more multifamily. For example, there's a project in Emeryville that was being completed at about $296 a square foot. This was like, proper homes. So if you're doing something that they have the ability to do something that's kind of more like maybe more basic housing. So yeah, I can work with you depending on what the project is to answer Ann Lopez's question. If you're, like looking for something that is really inexpensive, it may be possible.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, hi. I'm from the County of Santa Cruz, our Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience. And I just want to bring another aspect to this conversation that I think could amplify this effort, and that is around fire recovery. Mm-hmm. So not just this notion of addressing aging in place, which is important, and affordable housing, which is critical, but also for folks that are recovering from fire and using some of these tools, techniques, and resources to helping those folks. So I know that our county is looking at stock ADU plans that are mostly applicable in the built and urban environment. But as we explore solutions, or as this conversation evolves, thinking about how to support rural rebuilds for fire survivors with some of the ideas and concepts discussed would be great.
That's a good point, and unfortunately, we may be in situations again around here in the future.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah,
But
Rachel.
So it just so happens that after the fires in Sonoma, I joined the team at Wright Residential to help rebuild after the 2017 fires. And having somebody who understands the ADU opportunity was huge. I actually, of the 9 projects that I help rebuild, we managed to incorporate a current or future ADU into those projects. So it just, education around this is just enormously important. And it's, it's an asset to every homeowner. I mean, I know we're talking about, again, there's a huge range, but we're talking about a considerable investment, but it's an investment that's well worth it. I mean, it absolutely is reflected in your property values, and you have, an insurance policy in your home, for unforeseen events, right? And so anyway, it's just creating the financing opportunities for people to do this is just enormously important, and incorporating them into every home built from here on out is also, I think, very important.
Kelly?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kelly DeWolf. I'm the Impact Associate for Monterey for Affordable Housing at Monterey, United Way, Monterey County. And we've been working on our ADU initiative for over a year and a half now. And I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts related to that partnership that has been ongoing. And the feedback that we've received from our partners is that it's really helpful to meet regularly and be able to share best practices around ADU development strategy. And we have collaborated on a few different projects so far, including a educational ADU conference. And we are working currently in collaboration with Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, as Katie mentioned, on a policy paper and I just wanted to mention advocacy a little bit, because I do think that's another area that is really important, particularly in our region. We have a lot of unpermitted ADUs that are housing, and in some cases, farm workers and other low-income residents. And a lot of times those unpermitted units are held to really hard to meet standards for those homeowners. So trying to advocate for, safety only as a when the city or jurisdiction is reviewing those units, reviewing for safety only and not holding to modern building code is another area that I just wanted to mention. And additionally, somebody did allude to the water issues, but that is a big issue in our region as well. And there not being enough water available can be a really big barrier for many homeowners who are looking to construct these units as well. So I just wanted to bring those issues up as well.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, maybe you can answer this question. I have heard, I think that to build an ADU now, and I can't remember if it's marina or seaside, you have to have some kind of water right to do that, or water allocation. Could you say something about that?
Yeah, so actually the city of Seaside has really been a leader in our community in terms of promoting ADU development in their jurisdiction. And they have actually allocated water credits toward ADU development. So you do have the ability in the city of Seaside to purchase water credits for your ADU. However, in the city of Monterey, which is right next door to the city of Seaside, there's no water available for ADUs at all. So if you do not have enough water credits established on your property to allocate to that ADU, you are not able to construct that ADU at this time in the city of Monterey. So that, for example, is a really big barrier on the peninsula, particularly. Marina, I don't think has as much of an issue with water from my understanding, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, I think City of Seaside would, the folks working on this at the City of Seaside, they've actually worked with workbench builders in Santa Cruz on developing some pre-approved plans. So they would be another great partner to bring on to this initiative.
So, Ronnie, could I just comment?
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
that?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that even though it's a very limited scope, they should not have any issue around developing junior accessory dwelling units because they repurpose space in existing homes. And you know, the original legislation actually incorporated a bedroom. So the point is that you're not increasing the utility demands from the home at all. You're simply repurposing existing living space. So that was kind of, you know, one of the points of junior accessory dwelling units. And as you guys well know, you know, we're in the middle of a housing crisis and we're also chronically overhoused. So most of our homes are occupied by only 1 or 2 people, in most cases sleeping in a single bedroom. So there's a real opportunity in just junior units alone.
Any other comments or questions? Well, we have a few minutes left, so why don't we just proceed to the next order of business. So our proposal is to create some kind of nonprofit organization that will address these various issues and if possible, go farther. And I think, you know, looking at Napa Sonoma, that a regional organization is probably better than one that's restricted to specific jurisdictions. Although in listening to you, I can hear that things differ from one block to the next, depending on which city you are. And it's pretty confusing for people who are living in particular places to know when they read something about somewhere else to know exactly what applies. So that's obviously one of the things that is very important. So this is a set of questions that I pulled together to think about, not necessarily to answer right now. So what are the missions and goals? And I'm calling this Monterey Bay ADU right now, just as a placeholder. How much will it try to do? My feeling is the more ambitious, the better, but obviously that's also a funding issue. What'll be its organizational structure? For the time being, you know, we are a nonprofit. We can be sort of the caretaker for this, but by the same token, we have very little money. But that's neither here nor there. How can this effort be broadcast across the Monterey Bay region, which I think is also quite important? My sort of feeling is that if you have, it's sort of like a strange attractor. If you have something which has the name and it can be broadcast widely, then people will start to go there, right? As opposed to going to each of their cities. They'll start there as a resource. This is a question that people can address. Who is not attending today should be asked to participate or join. I do want to say that invitations went out to about 100 people. We have a contact list of, I guess, about 100. And there are, besides those people associated with SSRF, there are about 30 or 32 people on the call today. So the audience of interested, specialized professionals and so on is larger than this. And the last one is it possible to put together a working group of committed individuals to meet regularly to push this noodle forward? And so what I want to do is just, ask for a few minutes of thoughts and comments. And then if you are interested in joining a working group, I think the best thing to do is to send a note to our email address, which is in the chat, but I'll repeat it here. Oh, it's right there, sustainablesystemsresearch@gmail.com. And just tell us that you are interested in being part of this working group. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions from people who are attending, who are watching at this point? Yes, Anne.
Well, I just will throw this out, but Robert Rivas, who is the assembly person for District 30, I think about a year and a half ago, he got a bill passed through the assembly to use state money to construct family-friendly housing for farm workers on surplus agricultural land. So I'm thinking that that might be a place to start, or to think about anyway, for ADUs.
Okay, I just want to say that there are numerous funding sources, you know, across that the state sponsors. They're usually fairly specific in terms of who is qualified to apply, and so that's another, you know, that's another consideration in terms of looking at potential funding sources. And I'm not sure whether any of those would actually fund an organization, as opposed to, you know, development, design, construction. So that's again something that we need to look into. I mean, I hope everyone who is watching is interested in pursuing this, and because I think, you know, we've had enough in the way. Well, I've seen enough in the way of informational webinars and publications, and so anyone else? Yeah, Robin.
I want to reiterate on something that Anne was talking about. I'm glad that Anne is here because I don't know what groundwork has already been laid, but doing a community survey, finding out from the people who actually live around here. So what are your needs? What do you want? What would you want it to look like? So we are incorporating their needs, their wants, their desires, their cultural preferences. So it's very much a reflection of our community. So we're really, really tightening up our bonds within our community. And it sounds like there's a lot of different communities. So I would really kind of a survey, some kind of an outreach that goes out into all of our communities to say, hey, what is it you need? What you have a voice and we want to hear your voice. What do you want to say to us?
I think that's an excellent idea. I don't want to sort of rain on that particular point, but in fact, conducting surveys is fairly complicated, because on the one hand, if we do it online, you know, only a limited number of people will reply, and those who don't have access can't reply. And we haven't been able to go door to door, and I just don't know about doing that. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and maybe the folks up at No Place Like Home on campus who have been doing surveys, maybe we could interest them in participating in something like that. I see Emily Hansen wants to say something.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm remote driving, so bear with me.
Uh-oh.
So I wanted to actually dovetail on what Robin said, and also Ronnie, what you said earlier about having purchased parcel data in Santa Cruz County from the county. And the question that I always ask is, first and foremost, is the goal here, with regard, Ronnie, to what you said about a nonprofit, is the goal here to have a nonprofit for the sake of having a nonprofit, and for the sake of trying to coordinate approach without a coordinated approach. And so my personal opinion, professional opinion aside, but my personal opinion is you need to know what you're solving for. And it seems to me like a lot of the folks on the line, and I'm making an assumption here, but it seems like a lot of folks are in the industry, but not necessarily a high level of participation from the people who would actually be building these ADUs on their property. And I know that surveys are difficult to conduct. How you get the surveys out, whether it's door to door, whether it's online based, whether it's direct mail, those are challenges indeed. But really understanding what are the limiting factors for people who own property, who are in a position to build ADUs. Number one, why aren't they building ADUs? Is it because they don't want it on their property? Or they do want it on their property, but there's a series of another hierarchical set of obstacles that may have to do with financing, may have to do with permitting, may have to do with just simply not having the time to manage a project. or not knowing what the scope is going to be. So I think that if we're looking to solve a problem of getting more affordable housing, we need to go to the source, which is what are those obstacles? Not from a community base, like all of the different nonprofits and different municipalities that are working on it, but from the places where these ADUs would be sited. Why aren't they being sited there? Once we know some of the scope of that challenge, then you can start to target what you're actually trying to solve for through a coordinated approach, whether it's municipality specific, whether it's regional, whether it's a stock set of plans, whatever those things are, but solve for the problem at hand.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually, I mean, again, that's an excellent point, and it's a bit like the chicken and the egg, which is that you do need some sort of way of reaching out. I don't see the point of starting a nonprofit just for the sake of a nonprofit, but I think if something does get established, that then attracts attention, and then it becomes more possible to identify, interested homeowners. That's sort of the way that I've been thinking about it. The surveys that I've seen, people are interested, but the obstacles, the regulatory and other obstacles are pretty daunting. And so Hello Bright is doing some of that, is addressing some of that.
Exactly.
And so I think, again, this is something that has to be addressed. Kelly, before we adjourn, did you want to say anything final?
Well, I think you really covered what I was gonna say. We actually had a survey we have a survey on our website for interested homeowners, and many of the things that they've mentioned are the regulatory, the difficulty of the process itself, and needing some more guidance with that process. So yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. All right. Well, we're out of time, and I want to thank everybody who has attended and spoken, and I want to thank Rachel and Julia in particular for telling us about their approaches. What we'll do is we'll keep you posted about progress and future events. If you'd like to participate in a working group, please email us at the email address there, sustainablesystemsresearch@gmail.com, indicating your interest. And we'll put you on our list as long as you put your name and email address in chat. Okay. And so I want to thank you for attending our meeting today, and to have a pleasant and productive afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care all.
Thank you.
Thank you.